So what do you think about the fact that MCSO's answer in the press being safe during this time is to basically relegate them to a tiny portion of a parking lot?
It's a terrible policy. It's rarely been used by law enforcement agencies. There's been some litigation about practices by law enforcement where they relegate the participants to certain areas. But that's much more common than even thinking about relegating the press to an area of whatever, 1 block by 1 block areas, because if they're gonna police, so to speak, the area, they can't make it too big, which means that the press effectively has denied the possibility of validly being able to follow a story, because as we've seen on TV now, unfortunately too much, these demonstrations in cities will cover blocks and blocks and blocks of distance because the police move, the protesters move. So this is effectively telling the media, and there's very few agencies and organizations in our society more important than the media to keep the public informed about what is going on and whether First Amendment rights and freedoms of speech are being honored. That should be the last agency that is corralled, so to speak. But unfortunately, they just want to keep their activities secret, law enforcement. There's been big battles over the years, despite many decisions saying you're allowed to take pictures of police if you're in a public area, a public space. They often try to arrest those who do, just taking pictures. They're not involved in any criminal activity, and on, because they want to keep what they do secret, and they don't want to be able to be identified. Just as if, they often will take off their badges, the police, so you can't identify which individual was involved, and it goes on and on. But there's no valid reason, unless you had a particular newspaper person who turned out to be a violent individual. There's no valid reason for saying to any valid news gathering organization that they're relegated to a certain spot. They're not the ones causing any problems. If there are problems, the police are supposed to control it, arrest those involved in it. And the last thing you do is start with the actions that are the most violative of constitutional requirements. And the First Amendment and freedom of the press is a very basic requirement in our society.